Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze. I am your host, Professor Jeremy Vilmur. And joining us now, Arn Anderson's favorite enhancement talent, Double B, Bobby Blaze.
Ohio gozaimasu, Professor. Ohio gozaimasu.
Konnichiwa.
There you go. Good morning and good afternoon, as we're on two different time zones.
Mm-hmm.
And I speak the very little, especially with my hillbilly accent, Japanese, but ish Nissan, 1, 2, 3, let's go. We're going to record the top 10 wrestlers in Japan, the Japanese history lesson maybe today. We hope you enjoy it. Just going to have some fun with it. And I've been looking forward to this, man. But real quickly, how you doing, brother?
I am doing okay, actually. How are you doing over there?
Doing good. We had the big show last night, the My Way. That was FTC show, which was sponsored by Time Warp, and they did a real good new building for them, and that was over here in the Ashland area, again, the greater tri-state area. A real nice building. Packed it out, man. Pretty nice. Matches all went real good. I think the show overall was real good, and the fans went home happy. I think they got their money's worth, man. Hopefully they'll continue to I don't know if they'll continue to use that building or not, but, they're going to run some more shows. That's for damn sure. I'm trying to think. I was going to say something. Forgot what I was going to say about it being a real nice building. Good layout, good sound system, no complaints. Like I said, all good matches, good solid matches. So just want to get that out there. And then there's Alexa. She don't know anything.
She don't know nothing.
No, I don't know.
Well, so that means that event should be up on Fight TV now then.
Should be. I'm not sure when, but it should be already getting ready to be up there. I know that.
Yeah.
And they did announce the next Bluegrass Con, which will come to Ashland Saturday, May the 7th. And I'll have more information on that as time goes on, but we are going to start plugging that a little bit in the next little bit. Courtesy of FTC and of course Time Warp. I'll hit that later on. How's that?
Yeah, it sounds fantastic.
Tell you what I do know about it. So.
Yes, we actually have to thank the Time Warp for quite a bit around here. So yeah,
yes.
We'll make sure we get back to them.
Good old Earl will put you over, Earl. You know that.
Yep.
So, but yeah, the show was real good, man, and hope they do it again. I know they're going to have one May the 7th, the night of the Bluegrass Con 2. Because of all the people have coming to town, they're actually putting together a card for that evening, as far as I know. Again, I don't know. I know a couple people's going to be here, but I won't give it away right this second. I won't confirm who that Time Warp is bringing in. Then I can only confirm once they tell me who some of the other vendors plan on bringing in.
Right.
That way, I can tell you the guaranteed ones, so you don't say, well, Bobby said this guy's going to be here, this girl's going to be here. I only do the ones that I know are, corporate sponsored, that they, are for sure going to be there.
Sure. No, that makes total sense. Especially when it's a third party bringing them in.
Yeah. They're dealing with agents and this and that, and I just know that if FTC and Time Warp say they're bringing some wind, they unless for some, weather or illness or something like that, then 99% time that person is going to be at that event if they advertise them.
Yeah.
So,
no, that
some
makes
other vendors you can't say that for if you don't know the vendor,
Yeah, no, that makes total sense. Yeah, because they can say, oh yeah, I've got Sting. We'll just throw a name out there.
Yeah.
And then you find out whoever you're dealing with is full of shit and never even talked to anybody to even try to get clearance or get some. Yeah. I've seen that happen at convention after convention,
Yep. But once again, things are wrestling world-wise, things are looking good here in the Ashland, Huntington, Ironton area. They put out a little article again in the Ashland newspaper. It was a different reporter, but they used the picture from that they had taken when they'd done the anniversary show, and of course, right there on the front again, there's Billy Blaze. That damn guy keeps showing up. Billy Blaze was out there showing us how to do something in the ring, and which is always like Malenko used to always say, Bobby, there's nothing older than yesterday's newspaper, and I get it, I do, I really do, but I was like, damn, for an old guy, you've been in a newspaper here a couple of times lately, but they got the dadgum name wrong, and I'm fine with that, man. I just laugh at it,
Yeah.
because the main coverage was about the show that was going to take place. That was on Thursday's edition, so Thursday's edition, which was 2 days before the show. So that's good free publicity when a newspaper, writes an article about the company,
Oh, sure, absolutely. And you know what? I'm not the kind of guy who's predisposed to having my real name put on newspapers anyways.
That's me. I don't mind it. I really don't.
Yeah.
You can call me Billy. Call me about anything you want except for late for dinner,
Yep, that's kind of how I
it.
am. I came home years ago, I came home from work one day, right? And my ex-wife had found a box on the patio when she got home. And we open it up, and it's a bunch of Star Wars tiki cups. And it just says, here, you can have this, and it's got somebody's Twitter handle. It was somebody who listened to Geekish Cast, had found my home address and sent it to me.
Nice.
Well, kind of, but then you start realizing like, oh yeah, my life is totally an open book. You Google me, you find out literally everything about me,
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
Well, if anyone wants to send me some Omaha steaks, which has happened, I appreciate it. Send me one of those boxes. That's fine. Yeah, I've had that happen a couple of times, and believe me, I'm very appreciative when things like that happen.
Yeah.
So if you want to send gifts, just send them. I won't give out my address right here, but it's not too hard to figure out. I'll say that. Just don't come over unannounced. You either text me first or call me first, or I probably won't even open the door.
Yeah.
But send. We've got some nice. Through networking, through our podcast, we have got some nice T-shirts from Sparks, Third Coast. Like I said, I got someone sent me for Christmas some Omaha steaks. I had.
Oh yeah.
Real nice deal. So no complaints, man, on that. But yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, well, and it's like I'm not a big T-shirt guy. Like I normally wear a button-up shirt or a polo or something. But ever since Nate passed away, my wide men T-shirt has been getting a little bit of a workout,
I got you.
Yeah.
I've got on the, right now, the Irish McNeil Boys Club shirt.
Oh, that's a nice shirt. Yeah.
Yeah, this long sleeve, and I wore it over top of a T-shirt, kind of double layered where the, weather's, we had, 60 degrees the other, 50 and 60, but we're back down to the, upper 20s now, which we should be. But anyway, I don't know how we got them 2 days in.
I don't know.
We did, but yeah, this is a nice shirt because it's the long sleeve tee.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's going to be 77 here today.
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. I think it's going to be 27 here.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, our winter
Shoot.
our winter is over here. We get about 6 weeks of it anymore. And even then, it's not like cold,
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to apologize ahead of time. I've got a puppy who is crawling on me, but I've discovered if I lock her out of the room, she bangs on the door and shouts. So I'm just going to try to keep her in here and hopefully keep her entertained.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what we ought to do. We ought to just get right into this podcast, man, about the top 10 wrestling in Japan, because I think we've got something,
Yeah, no, it's not
good. For us, we're going to, just do our best, and hopefully the fans enjoy it. I think we got some good stuff to talk about here.
Yeah, I agree. So what we did here is we're not doing top 10 Japanese wrestlers necessarily. What we're doing are top wrestlers in Japan. So that way we get a little more room, but we did try to keep it to mostly Japanese people.
Yeah.
So,
and it's kind of a history lesson too, not so much, just this one person or that one person. There's decades long careers we're talking about here.
Yes.
That transition of the different companies too, how some things took place. So we hope you enjoy that part as well.
yeah.
So
Well, so I guess, do you want me to start or do you want to start?
yeah, I think you got a question for me, and we'll go from there.
So Bobby, now you worked in Japan, and what did you find as the primary difference between working in the States and working in Japan?
The biggest difference is, to me, is the sport of professional wrestling is just that. They kept it competitive like it was an actual sport, and I have a lot of respect for that. So if the fans come, and they do come, they want to see a composition, and they may know competition rather. I apologize. They want to see that competition, how it plays out, and they will, if they even know that the finish is predetermined, they still want to see that, kind of like I was explaining last week. When I know a finish, they want to see that come off, and they pop for that.
Yeah.
Now, the wrestling, when you get in the ring, you may think, they'll cheer when you come out, they announce you, and so they, typically just like the United States, they cheer like, oh, here comes, so-and-so, Bobby Blaze, and they applaud, what have you. But once you get in the ring, it gets real hush. Every once in a while, someone may yell out someone's name, Bobby, or, Jinsei, or Sasuke, or whatever. But those are rare, honestly. It might happen 2 or 3 times a night for 2 or 3 different wrestlers, but it's just someone just got excited and yelled it out. But what they do is they watch you, and they watch you wrestle in and out of holds, counters. They like that. They don't mind that if you get hooked into a submission type hold early on in a match, that you grab the ropes. They respect that. There's kind of an underlying rule there. I know UFC, not UFC, I'm sorry, UWF over there, and we'll talk about that later on. They had a rule where you can go to the ropes 3 times before you actually basically submitted your fight, because they was doing like shoot fighting.
Sure.
In the pro style, babyface going to the ropes 3 times doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense at one time in the United States for the babyface to grab the rope. But if you're in a submission move over there, and it could be, say 2 or 3 minutes into the match, and you grab that rope, they respect that. Oh, the match isn't going. He didn't quit. But he had to get to the rope. He couldn't counter that, But then what they do when that happens, say you counter something really, really quick, and you come up and you face off against each other, or you hook someone for a submission, you get to that rope, and the referee makes you break it. They pop. They come. They they get it. And they clap for you. So there's a lot of oohs and ahs, and they just they observe. The other thing I liked about it was you'll see people as soon as, and these tickets are not cheap for professional wrestling. They're the yen. I mean, you're talking people pay top dollar to get in some of these events, and you'll see people coming to the shows. Businessmen will come to the shows right off work in their business attire. And some of them will get a room in that town. They'll take the train and boom, get to the town, and watch their professional wrestling. And then knowing they have to be back at work that next day, they'll get a room right there and zip back. Wherever the show's at. It's a very dedicated crowd to the wrestling fans over there, and they're very respectful. Very respectful to the professional wrestlers. They're we're going to go over the word gaijin, which is what the foreign wrestlers are known as, having pale eyes or, different skin tone, basically. But they're very respectful, and they, enjoy seeing a good match. And the fans that come, there's a good interaction between them. There's a lot of respect between them. They bring, speaking of gifts, getting you some Star Wars stuff, they bring presentos, presents to the wrestlers sometimes. And sometimes that's something they have made for you. Maybe they drew your picture. Sometimes it might be, just speaking for me, on a summer tour, the tour bus I was on, we had cooler on it and cooler of beer underneath the underneath the bus there rather, and go to a town a couple times. Next time you're there, they bring you a 12-pack of beer. Oh, put it in the bus. And of course you share that for everyone. It's not yours because they give it to you, but they know when they're giving it to you, they know you're going to share that. That's what it's meant.
Spread it around.
Yes, and you know that too. So just little things like that. Just a lot of respect, man. When that was one of Excuse me, let me get a drink here. Two of my earliest goals in wrestling on a professional level were I wanted to be on a TBS on Saturday night, you know, the Superstation. And also, when I got really started training with Dean, after about 4 or 5 months in Tampa, I was like, Jeremy, I don't know what's wrong with my voice. I really don't. Apologize for that. I was out late in the cold last night, but I wasn't ever cold. I just happened to be out in it a couple of times, arranging some things for the show. But that might be it. But anyway, I thought early on too. I thought, oh, I want to go to Japan because I kept seeing these Japanese guys come to Malenko's and train, and see them in magazines. And we used to get the old videos from there. And when I saw the magazines and the videos and things, I said, well, I want to really go there. And that's the other thing when I was mentioning magazines, when I saw that question, I wanted to get this out there. They have a weekly magazine, like Gong Magazine, Baseball Weekly. They have big in color, not every page, but probably about 95% of the magazine is colored photos. Now, there's some black and white, and there's some advertising in it, of course. But, it's an honor when they put your picture inside that magazine. I've got a few somewhere around here that I've been in, when I was over there from Michinoku. But, yeah, I got to go over there 5 different times, and I went as little as 14 days for like 12 matches, and then I went as long as a 6-week summer tour, go to all 6 weeks of that. Most of the time I went for about 21 to 25 days at a time, but the other 3 times, I should say, not most. But the thing about that is, like in the U.S., a lot of times you got to, at one point you did, you have to submit your own pictures and submit, let people know who you're wrestling for, and you send those in. Or if you're working for someone, you hope, like if you get an introduction introducing Bobby Blaze, you hope that Cornette sends that to Bill after, and Bill calls you and asks you for some more picture, whatever, that kind of thing. You kind of have to do your own hustle for PR. Over there, they have, a lot of photographers that go to the shows that do submit pictures, and they do it in a way. You start from, of course, it reads from the back to the front, opposite the way our magazines are laid out. But so the front of it would be, again, going from the back to the front, but say our back, it would be like New Japan or All Japan, one of the bigger companies first, or the biggest story that week that broke, that would get the coverage up front. And then it would go through to maybe Michinoku Pro might be 3rd, and then UWF might be 4th. Again, it's not in any certain order. After about 2 or 3 of them, then they would do a section on wings, because there's so many companies and so many matches that were taking place throughout the country during that week. I'm just thinking of some of the ones while I was there. And then, like maybe Noah, just all the different ones. And then they eventually have in there towards the back would be if the WWF had a big event there, they would obviously cover that event because it is pro wrestling. Vince may tell you otherwise, but anyway, and the same thing with WCW. Had they done a tour there, or several of the guys from WCW rather may have been working for New Japan that had deals before they went over, come to WCW. Those guys were they do a section of that, kind of like an indie type thing.
Sure.
So it's a wide variety. It just didn't emphasize one major company. And they came to you, taking your picture and wanting information. And I'd always ask Oscar, this reporter okay to talk to, whatever, if they interviewed me. And I had a couple of interviews there, but just very, very simple ones, of course,
Yeah.
Nothing in great detail. Where you're from, who trained you, and how long you've been wrestling, and who some of your favorite opponents were, and what you thought about Japan, But yeah, that's about the biggest difference is just the respect of that it's still a competition, and that they want to see that finish. They don't care it's predetermined. They want to see something good take place. Whether you submit, they respect that. Whether you get pinned 1, 2, 3, if it's a good match, they respect that. the only thing you do is really is don't insult them by being up there and being a lazy ass in the ring. They don't appreciate that, and they don't appreciate if you insult, the professional wrestling. They want you to come out there and do what you're hired to do.
Well, that's kind of a,
see you.
Yeah, that's kind of a, like, if you have a job at McDonald's mopping the floors in Japan, you don't sit around and piss and moan about the shit job you have. You take your job very seriously. That's one of the differences. Yeah.
Japan, and you go to McDonald's, and if you're there for any length of time, I enjoyed all the food I ate there for the most part, but after about 2 weeks, if I was close to McDonald's, I went to one, and I said several tours. But yeah, someone is taking your order, and while they're taking it, someone else is running to start retrieving stuff to get your order together. It's amazing, and you do not see people sitting around. You're exactly right. You can see someone mopping that floor on one end, someone sweeping on another, and someone picking up trash. And it's just they work like a machine. That's the same thing like the ring crew, the young boys. Once that truck pulls in, they start running. They got that truck set up the way it unloads from the back to the front. They boom, boom, boom. They're taking in what goes in first off the back of that truck, and they're laying a foundation for that ring. It's amazing to see. Just how they work together, and everyone has a specific job too. That's the other thing. If your job's the ropes, you stand there and wait until something else is moved till you grab the ropes, because you're getting someone's way if you don't. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So there's 4 guys getting ring posts, so that thing's opening. There's 4 guys out there already laid down rubber mats for the post to go on, and then the posts are up, and boom, next thing you know, there's guys, they're getting rails, for the sides. And that's just the way they work. So, yeah, they take pride in their work. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what your job is typically. And then I had a friend who lived in Japan for 5 or 6 years. He was a school teacher over there. And he told me a couple things, like he goes, you're expected to like go out drinking with the boss after work and then stay out till 1 or 2 in the morning, get shit-faced drunk, throw up on yourself, show up to work the next day in yesterday's suit with your vomit on you, and they just look at you and go, you are very strong,
Yeah.
And then the other thing was he was talking about like concerts and stuff. So he's like, so there'll be t-shirts and a program and whatever under the seats, right?
Mm-hmm.
And unless somebody from the venue on stage says, hey guys, there's a t-shirt and a program and a picture book, blah, blah, blah. If they just tell them that they're there, they'll leave that stuff in those seats when they leave, unless somebody actually says, and those are for you to take home with you when you leave. All right. So we have laid out 10, what we are going to say in our opinions are great wrestlers in Japan. And, we're going to start with number 10 here. Bobby, you ready?
Yes.
All right. Number 10 is going to be, in general, the gaijin, which is going to cover our usual suspects, Dory and Terry Funk, Stan Hansen, Bruiser Brody, Abdullah the Butcher. Lou Thez had a pretty big standing in Japan. He was known as Tetsuo, which translates roughly to the Iron Man.
Mm.
So, the Von Erichs had a pretty big career in Japan as well.
Oh, yeah. That's right. Yeah. The Funks way back when, they started, booking people over there at one point because they had an Amarillo, Texas territory, and Japan would send young boys over to the Funks, to train and to get matches there.
Sure.
Same thing with different country. Sorry about that. Calgary would do that. Mexico, they did that. There was guys that would be sent over here for 1 or 2 years and work these territories before they came back. And over there, that's another thing. Here's something I did like about that. Not just everyone becomes a professional wrestler over there. Most of the time, you have to be selected, or you apply to one of those, New Japan or All Japan dojos. And on that system, it's very strict, regimented, and you work for about 2 years, basically doing what they call exhibition matches. Before you actually got to do a quote professional style match. So they paid their dues quite a bit. So
Yeah.
getting back to what I was getting at is a lot of these young guys, maybe for after a year or so, they would go out to Amarillo and work with the Funks. You know, they had that relationship with them. And, of course, out of that whole group, we're talking about just the Funks here, Hanson come out of that, and so did Brody, you know. And started off with the Funks, and they took them over there, or at least got them started, got their foot in the door, what have you. And then they took over from there as far as, you know, men being men. Same thing with Abby. You know, he was something different. Of course, the original Sheik, they were unique characters, and they became fixtures in you know, Japanese wrestling. Legendary status, of course. So, and like I said, you put Thesz in there. He, you know, being an NWA World Heavyweight Champion, that meant something. So, of course, they want the NWA champion to come over and defend his title against their best, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, they got to say, you know, again, you're talking Race went over, Flair, you know, and
Hogan.
of course, worked with Hogan and Bockwinkel, you know. And I tell you what, if you're looking for, I haven't done this recently, it might be a good day to do it. There's a lot of good footage of, you'll get a Bockwinkel and a Race in a tag team match, you know.
Yeah.
You'll get the Funks, of course, against Hanson and Brody at some point. You know, I mean, you get some really good matchups that you're like, you probably didn't see in the United States. And if you may have read about a magazine where maybe Brody met someone here or there in the United States, but on there on YouTube you can find some really good stuff. Like I said, to see someone like to me like a Bockwinkel. I'm thinking there's one of them he teamed with or wrestled against a Race and in a tag team match. And it's really cool because, you know, the political NWA and AWA, over there they're working together because they're on the same tour, you know.
Yeah.
And that to me is some pretty good wrestling.
Well, you know, and occasionally, this is like super occasionally, Florida Championship Wrestling or Championship Wrestling from Florida, you would see like Harley Race and Stan Hansen versus the Road Warriors for the AWA Tag Team Championship. Stuff you wouldn't really see like outside of those two markets, you know?
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I did want to comment on real quick is that wrestlers are big enough stars in Japan, or at least were throughout the 70s and 80s, that often in comic books and video games and cartoons and other things like that, pro wrestlers would be kind of surreptitiously drawn in. Like Abdullah the Butcher is in Fist of the North Star and several video games and cartoons. Characters based on Bruiser Brody show up here and there. So they're a little more mainstream over there, you know.
Funk had something, but I can't remember what it was, what his deal was. It was in his book I read several years back, but he had something like that going on too. Yeah. So, but that's our usual suspects. I mean, we could talk about those guys all day. In fact, we've put together several, two or three of our most popular ones. Of course, I'm going to mention Terry Gordy because that was another mainstay over there, but we did a special on him and Brody and Hanson, and actually Abby too. So yeah, those were some of our most popular segments or podcasts have we done on those guys. Yeah. So you can look back in the archives and you can find out more information, especially if you're new to the program, to find out some. You know, we did a legit top 10 reasons we love Bruiser Brody or Abdullah Butcher or whoever we was talking about during that time. Yep. So let's move on. How about that?
Hold on, real quick before we do. We forgot to mention the greatest tag team of all time, Dr. Death and Bam Bam Terry Gordy, the Miracle Violence Connection.
Yes, there you go. I mentioned Gordy, I forgot, but Williams needs to be in that group too. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And I'll tell you this, the Malenko brothers, some tag teams out to get the Bulldogs is on there. That's awesome. Also, sorry about that. The Fantastic. That's what I was trying to think.
Oh, yeah.
Against the Malenkos is on there. That's a hell of a match. You're finding that match, and of course you got the Bulldogs on there. They'd be gaijin because they're English wrestlers. Of course, I think they booked themselves out of Calgary at the time. But so there's so much good wrestling. If you just go type it on YouTube, if you haven't already done so, do yourself a favor. Take a couple hours, 4 hours one day, however long you want to go down that rabbit hole, and just watch you some good, not only just Japanese wrestling, but watch some of the Americans and the gaijins, I should say, have matches with each other in Japan as well as with the Japanese superstars. You'll be doing yourself a treat if you do that for yourself. I'm telling you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, move us on to number 9.
Yes,
there, Bobby.
number 9 here is no. She, I'm gonna mess her first name up there. Manami Toyota. Sorry about that.
That's good.
I'm trying to get something put up here. So Manami Toyota, okay, in his 2002 book, Top 100 Professional Wrestlers of All Time, John F. Moreno refers to Manami Toyota as the Ric Flair of women's wrestling, arguably the greatest female pro wrestler of all time. It's heavenly and a heavy praise, but it just may be warranted. Toyota raised the bar for women's wrestling to even greater heights in All Japan women wrestling in the 1990s. However, unlike Flair, Toyota was both a master technician and a high flyer, dazzling fans with moonshots, suicide dives, and diving headbutts off the top rope. And that comes from Sisterhood of the Squared Circle, The History and Rise of Women's Wrestling by Pat McPardre and Dan Murphy. So I just wanted to get that out there. She began her career at the age of 16, making her debut in 1987 with All Japan's Pro Wrestling. Anyway, take over from there, Professor. How's that?
Well, so this is one you kind of turned me on to. I didn't know a whole lot about her, but she's got like a 30 or 35 year career span. Only recently retired.
Yeah, I think 2017.
Yeah, and she worked at the same place from 1987 till it folded in like 2008 or something.
Yes.
I mean, it was a very long period of time that she was in just one space. So, yeah, I mean, I just kind of quickly went over a lot of the stuff about her, and apparently if you know about her, then she is one of the greatest wrestlers, not greatest female wrestlers, greatest wrestlers of all time. Yeah. You know, like you said, she had a floor game and a flying game.
Yeah.
And it's somebody I'm going to have to go watch some of now because I'm only passingly familiar with her.
Yeah. Well, she was a 4-time WWA World Single Champion, 1-time IWA World Champion, as well as the longest reigning champion, 3-time WWA Tag Team Champion, 4-time winner of the Japan Grand Prix, 5-time winner Tag Team League Best Tournament. She has been awarded 7 5-star matches from the Wrestling Observer for her individual efforts, and another 7 for her work in tag teams, giving her the record-setting 14, as well as 2 Match of the Year awards, and was named Most Outstanding Wrestler in 1995 and inducted to the Observer Hall of Fame in 2002. That's pretty damn impressive, man.
That is.
So, yeah. And, you know, we was talking off air. Her name wasn't really the first one to come to mind for either one of us. And I know I certainly do not want to do an injustice to women's professional wrestling in Japan because while I was there, there's another section of the magazine. They always did the women's, you know, All Japan Pro Women had a section on them there. And I think on at least 2 of the tours I were on, 2 of the girls, or a tag team, 4, were sent over for a week or so of the tour I'd be on, you know, so just to mix the show up some. And I did not ever see one bad female professional wrestling match while I was there. Those girls go at it, man. They bust their ass. But, you know, some other names that come to mind was Boy Nakano, and I said Awesome Kong. And these ladies, Jeremy, that's another thing in Japan with, you know, you see the big marquee advertising, you know, everywhere. Sasuke done a cell phone, you know, I was like 97, I was there. He was doing a cell phone commercial, you know, had his picture up and I don't know, in Billboard in Tokyo or wherever, and he's answering the phone there, or whatever the commercial is. These girls the same way. You ride down the street and there'd be a big billboard with Awesome Kong, and then have the tour dates about All Japan Women on it or something like that.
Yeah.
So they were over, man, huge. And like I said, she had the floor game and do the suicide dives and all that stuff. Those girls, and I tell you, every one of them.
I don't know that one.
That damn Alexa, I don't know what the hell's wrong with her today.
She's
she
off,
don't know anything.
man.
She like me, I don't know nothing. But no, they the back bends and the calisthenics and the bridges. But those girls, when they started at 16, they take them in, 16, 18-year-old girls. They usually have at least a 10-year run. They're not allowed to have boyfriends. I mean, it was strict. And then, but what it was, it paid off for those shows because, man, they were top tier. Every one of them could go.
Yeah.
Every one of them could go. So, and once again, when you did them, I put up some footage of Debbie Malenko for a friend of mine a few weeks back, and told her to watch this. You want to see something? Watch this. And it was like, that's real. That's real. And I'm like, yeah, you're in the business and you believe that's real. That's the way you got to do your job now, because that they just bust her ass and do it, man. But I'm glad we put a lady on this list.
Oh, yeah.
And that's who we chose to go with. And so, like you said, had a 30-year career.
Well,
so,
as
Nami Toyota, and I apologize about the name butchering earlier.
Yeah. As we get down towards
Toyota.
the bottom of the list, you'll see there's like 5 or 6 people that had to be on here. And the rest were ones, we had to just kind of like make a call. Who did we feel was, best represented these positions? And, there should be, because Japan's got a really robust women's scene in pro wrestling and has for forever, it seems like. Yeah. So, it's kind of important, but, who do you go with?
Right.
That was one of the problems I kept banging into.
Well, bang into number 8 for us. How about that?
All right, number 8, and watch how I handle this, Bobby. I can't pronounce his first name, so I just call him Okada.
There you go. That's what I'd say.
Now, Okada is the most decorated IWGP Heavyweight Champion in history. 30 defenses across 5 reigns and a combined 1,790 days as champion. And then, but for a 2-year period, he had a 720-day 12 defense reign from 2016 to 2018, just as one standalone period. Really, with him, I think you have to go watch his matches to appreciate him.
Yeah, and that's what I've got to do. I honestly haven't watched anything for probably 6 or 8 months with Okada on it.
Yeah.
A friend of mine turned me on to him several years back, probably around 2016 or 17 or so, and I've seen some of his matches, but that'd be my best advice too, to be honest. That's the best way to describe him. Just watch some of his matches and you'll be very, very impressed, and you'll be very, very glad you did.
Yeah, that clothesline of his, that lariat, I guess, really, that Rainmaker, that is one of the nastiest looking ones I've seen since Stan Hansen,
Yeah, well, that's saying a lot then.
It really is. Now, he doesn't swing as blind. He's got a little bit nicer short arm setup, but
Gotcha.
yeah.
Stan's is swinging for fences and hoping a head's up there somewhere, and because it's not going to be attached too much longer once he makes contact.
Yeah, he's going to knock that right out of the park, man. But yeah, with Okada, you got to watch the matches, and I get a lot of our fans aren't going to be Kenny Omega guys, but if you get a chance to watch the Omega Okada matches, check them out, because they are really, really something to see. Now, Okada's still fairly young, and they're already calling him one of the best wrestlers of all time. So, that's
shoes to fill.
Yeah, so I mean that's a heavy load to carry, but it kind of, every time I see him, I'm just like stunned by it. I'm just like, Jesus, he's really, really good. Kind of like an older Kobe Carino in a way,
There you go. We brought him up a little bit earlier. We off the air, so we'll just kind of leave that at that, I guess. Otherwise, we're going on a whole nother tangent.
Yeah, maybe we'll save that one for a little bit later after.
Yeah, I think so, because we're both pretty big on him.
Yeah.
Well, let's go on to number 7 here, Jeremy.
Okay.
Muda, Kenja Muda. the
Yes.
great Muda. So, man, he has to make this list, man. When he come to this country, he was a very good-looking man, very well built and could wrestle. And I think, from my understanding, if it wasn't for his work rate, getting him over just being a foreigner and being a Japanese wrestler, I think the other Japanese wrestler was, I don't know personally, I'm just saying my opinion, they might not have liked the guy because he was just so good looking and so well built and getting over and stuff, and it's hard to present him as a heel because, the fans, I think, wanted to hate him, but they also was like, this guy's very talented. Let's watch him,
Yeah.
I think some of the other Japanese guys were like, I'm not saying it's jealous, but they was like, he's got something special here, But he was just. You put on here, I'll let you read some other stuff. I'm going to put the last thing here. Often imitated, man.
Yes.
That guy, he just very innovative in some of his moves. The thing was, when he done these moves, he was so smooth doing them. He just, that backhand spring to the elbow, to the corner, moonsaults, those type things. Man, the guy just was very impressive, and he wasn't a small guy. He was a pretty big, stout guy, Now, he wasn't a giant, but he definitely wasn't small.
He had some body mass to him, yeah.
Man, yes. Good size. He was a grown-ass man.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, anyway, I know you want to talk about the one thing here. Blood.
Yeah, well, we have to bring that up. That
Yeah.
I didn't write the guys. I can never remember too. It's Hase. He wrestled a match, against Hase where it got so bloody by the end that is now used as the scale to rate how bloody a match gets. Which I believe one is the full Muda.
Muda.
Yeah.
We have that on YouTube. If you go to the Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze podcast on YouTube, it's one of the ones Tex did early on. I think it's tinyurl.com/BBBB video. If you go to that, there is a Muda scale on there, and it's Jeremy and I talking about, I think it's the top 10 bloodiest matches of all times. That may give you a starting point as well. But we know Muda's number one. We'll go ahead and spoiler alert because it's been up there for 2 years now. If you haven't listened to it or watched it, why haven't you?
Yeah.
Anyway, it shows some of that match with Hase, if not all of it. I'm not sure how much could have been posted at that time, but it's out there if you want to see a really, really bloody match.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
And he's number 7 on our list, and with good reason. He again deserves to be on this list.
And he held the IWGP and the Triple Crown Championship simultaneously.
Yes.
I think there's only one other person that's ever done that. So I'd have to check into it. And look, I get, championships are a work, blah, blah, blah. Still, for that many people to put that much faith in you at one time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like Buddy Landell used to tell me, Bobby, as much as business is a work, it's a shoot. So, and that's the truth. It really is. Those people putting faith that, hey, just because you think someone took a pencil and wrote it down, no, there's a lot more that goes into that. Like you said, they have to have faith in the product, and you are the product. You know, this wrestler is going to represent this belt that represents our company. So yeah, it really is. As much as it's a work, it's a shoot. It really is. I was going to say something here, and I really don't want to get you riled up. Okay, I'm just going to throw us out there, but Muda also had a manager, and I'm just going to say Gary Hart's the devil.
He's the devil.
So, if I'm going on a big Gary Hart tangent here, what do you think about that connection, man? That they had the Texas and J-Pap.
J-Tex, yeah.
J-Tex connection with with Funk and Muda and Gary Hart managing. I mean, man, there's some ass kicker in that group.
Oh yeah. Now, did Gary Hart really invent the green mist?
Oh, I don't know.
I know he takes credit for it with Kabuki, but yeah.
Kabuki, I don't even know if we went into that in our Gary Hart segment that we did. That was very popular, by the way. So, he took credit for it. I get, you know what? he's the fucking devil. I ain't going to question him.
Yeah, you know.
I
yeah.
don't believe in a lot of that stuff, but you know what I do believe in? And that's reality. And I believe this. If someone blows green mist in your face and that paralyzes you, that might be reality, Jeremy.
That's a good chance of it, a really good chance of it. So, Bobby, before we get done talking about Keiji Muto, I watched a match years ago from Japan, and it was like this weird. As seriously as the Japanese take wrestling, they also get real like sci-fi with the shit at times too, and I'm always stunned by the stuff that they can do. So Muta is summoned to the ring from a lantern that this gay guy has as he's coming out, and he doesn't want to fight whoever's in the ring, right? So he's rubbing this lamp, and Muta appears. The great Muta appears.
Okay.
He goes into the match, and he's fighting all these guys, and this girl comes in, and he knocks her down, pulls her legs apart, and spits between her legs, and then she lays an egg and gives birth to another guy. And I'm watching this, and it's all in Japanese, right? I mean, I can't catch anything of what's being said. And the whole time, I'm just like, what in the fuck am I watching? What is going on?
This was a massive flashback you had or anything?
No, this was, there was no psilocybin in my system, nothing.
Okay.
But it was one of the weirdest things I had ever seen. And I don't even know where to begin talking about that one. So there's no other time it's ever going to be able to come up on our show. So I figured I'd mention it now.
Yeah. Well, they're out there, you know.
Oh, yeah.
If you're an X-File fan, and that was Sasuke's favorite show, or one of, I should say, if not the number one. But yeah, they're out there. I'll say some of these guys, can't say a lot of them because there's so many Japanese, and be like saying all the Americans believe this. Well, there's a large group that I met that do believe in the UFOs, and so I don't know what happened with that landing and spitting between the crotch and the egg runs. I don't know, whatever. Just saying. That may have to come up again. I want to find out more about that.
I'll have to find that video clip and send it to you, because it was just like the whole time you're just like, am I awake right now?
That's what it sounds like. Yeah. That's what it sounds like. All right, well, let's move on to number 6 here, man.
All right.
Kishi Yamada, Jushin Thunder Liger. I got to meet him and be on tour with him over in Australia. I'm going to let you take over after I mention a couple of things.
Sure.
But I knew he had went to, the Observer did a really nice thing in 92. They put together a really nice book, and my brother bought it. We was in Tampa at the time, and it was David put out this really cool book, kind of just a career highlight of one young Kishi Yamada, and it talked about him going to Mexico for a couple of years and working in Calgary, and him making his own outfits, doing the wigs, and then he grew his own hair out, to make it go with the mask and all those things. But he talked about him doing all these Hindu squats before his match and stuff. Well, I got to see firsthand. First of all, he was he was on the Australia tour with us. And he mostly worked with Chris and Dean and Joe Malenko. Those four usually work together, or in a singles combination sometime where they had all worked in New Japan together. And no one else on the card would probably keep up with him anyway.
Right.
But he was very, very professional, very courteous, very alone. He was reading at the time. He had a novel. He was always reading something, on the bus or on the plane. But then of course, like I said, we ate dinner together. And you're not really eating. You're in a group of people, and they're just, you're being courteous to each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But in the locker room, man, I've seen them just go over there. You do like 2,000 Hindu squats as a warm up, and that's a shoot. He would just knock them out, and I've seen him and Benoit both do it. I've done as many as 1,000. And it just takes time. You do them. I was at one point I was up to 500 every Sunday, and I'm not bragging about myself. I'm just saying it because that's what I was taught. The way I was taught. But when you see a guy over there for 30 minutes basically just knocking out 2,000 squats and then doing neck bridges for 15 minutes at a time, and just, and also going to the gym and lifting. For a guy his size, moving some pretty heavy weights around is pretty impressive. That, to me, when I saw him doing these things, and I was on his tour, professional wrestling tour, I was watching a professional athlete, I was telling, when I was on Facebook many years ago, I was talking to Bull Payne, and I was talking about these matches I was just now mentioning with the Malenkos, Benoit, and Liger, and I said, it was a great tour, and I watched every night, and he was saying, Bobby, those guys you're mentioning, he said, I'm a pro wrestler. This was what Bull was telling me. He said, Bobby, I'm a pro wrestler. Those guys are professional athletes, and it's true, man. They were in a league by themselves, But Liger, seeing him work out like that, the success early on was inevitable for him to become the biggest star that he became. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
I'll let you go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, that's he started under his name, Keiichi Yamato, but the next year he was given the gimmick of Jushin Liger, which was an anime character. I believe they actually licensed this character for him. And then the next year he became Jushin Thunder Liger. So I don't know what the difference is between those two characters, but it's probably some kind of crazy Sailor Moon Ultraman stuff, He just retired a few years ago. He had a 35-year career, which is amazing. You said he also spoke better English than you would think, especially when snakes were involved, right?
Yes. Hey, good recall. You're right.
Yeah.
We were on that tour. One of the snakes that Jake had got loose it was hot as Hades. Some calls it Hades, some calls it hell. But it was hot, and I guess the snake twisted its way through the tile on the bag or whatever, and went down in a drain or possibly the toilet. I'm not sure how the plumbing in that facility worked. Now, you know more about that than me.
Yep.
But it came up in a shower where Liger was at, in another maybe 30 foot across the locker room area, and out of nowhere, you hear, "Oh shit!" in perfectly good English, and Liger comes out running butt-ass naked, soaking wet. Snake, and
everybody thought he was bragging about his pecker, but it turned out to be a snake.
But there was a guy and two girls that were in charge of that at any given time. And, of course, they went in there. Hell, Jake wasn't going through anything about it, But they went in there and got it and put it back in the gimmick bag or whatever, and I guess tied it extra tight or whatever. But, yeah, he spoke good English when it comes to snakes.
That's funny.
Good recall, yeah.
So one of the things I wanted to bring up, because I found this the most amazing thing to watch a couple years ago when I first discovered it, was he actually created a character called Kaishin Liger at one point, which was kind of like his evil counterpart. And when I was exposed to it, what I saw was a match between him and the Great Muta. And at one point, Jushin Liger starts getting his ass kicked, right? Mm-hmm. And he gets his suit torn, and then at some point, the mask and the top half of his suit come down, and he's painted up kind of like the Great Muta. And now he starts using moves like Muta. He's spraying mist. But when he was first stripped to his waist, the crowd gasped. You could hear a gasp hit when he came out of his suit and then was all painted up like Muta. And that's one of those things, like you were saying, the Japanese, because it was like dead silent besides the ring sounds up until then.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you just hear everybody go, and it was kind of like watching Batman fight the Joker, and then Batman takes his mask off, and underneath it is another Joker.
Cool.
Yeah, it was pretty cool stuff to watch. I would definitely suggest, if you get a chance to watch any of his Kaishin Liger stuff, check it out, because there's some fun stuff in there. Bobby, I just realized something, man.
What's that?
Have you looked at the time?
Yes, I had. I sure have. And I thought this is going to be a two.
Yeah.
Part 2 is going to have to come up next week.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to split these in two. You know what?
Well, let's do this. Go ahead.
I was going to say, why don't we, let's talk about the time warp real quick.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. We'll do a wrap up in just a second on what we went through so far. But look here, Jeremy, are you ready for a time warp?
I'm always ready for a time warp.
There you go. Video gamers, sports fans, nostalgic enthusiasts, man. Time Warp is a brick and mortar hobby shop with a huge selection of everything sports, gaming, and collectibles right in downtown Ashland. And Jeremy, they got 2 locations in the Ashland Town Center. And I'm going to take you down there when you come to town, buddy.
All right.
Because they've got vintage toys, sports cards, collectibles, and they've got tons of wrestling merch, okay, just so you know. They've got the largest selection of memorabilia in the tri-state area. Time Warp also has an extensive inventory of vintage and current video games and consoles. It's a 100% must visit for people that come to California and retro gamers. Time Warp buys your collectibles daily and are open 7 days a week. Now, here's the thing, Jeremy. They're only closed 2 days a year, and that's Thanksgiving and Christmas. So for 7 days a week, 363 days a year, the Time Warp is open. If you're in Ashland, check them out. They got a brick and mortar location downtown, 2 locations at the Ashland Town Center, and check them out on their Facebook at Time Warp Ashland.
Yeah, actually, if you check them out on Facebook, it turns out most of their stuff they have for sale on Mercari as well. So if you see something you like, go try to find them on Mercari, and you can buy it regardless of where you are. So, you know, that's kind of cool as well, yeah. And you know me, Bobby, I'm a giant geek. I do classic video games, and I don't really do comics as much as I used to, but I still buy some toys and things that I like, you know, that I like to have around. Yeah. So, yeah, big thank you to the Time Warp for sponsoring this episode. Let's see here. Bobby, why don't you wrap up for us, and we'll kind of plot our way forward.
All right, well, top 10 wrestling in Japan. We did the gaijin, or the foreign wrestlers. We did Minami Toyota, was number 9. We went through number 8, which was Okada. Watch his matches. Number 7 was Muda, and number 6 was Jushin Thunder Liger. We are going to do the top 5 next week of our second half, or part 2 of great Japanese wrestlers, or our top 10 as we call them.
Yeah.
And good things, Jeremy. I was looking at that time, and I think it's a good audible to call, man. We're right on time, and we got some good stuff left with these other 5 names with some good stories, and tying a lot of the history of New Japan and All Japan Pro Wrestling, and just vast knowledge of or podcast of more history of Japan coming next week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hard to spit that out. Sorry.
No, that's quite all right, because you know it's a lot to try to communicate real suddenly.
Yeah.
Bobby, where can people find us on social media?
Yes, you can find me on Twitter at BobbyBlaze744. Find Jeremy at The Geekish Cast. Find our joint account on Twitter as well as on Facebook at Bell to Bell Blaze. And check us out, man.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people want to get your books.
Yes, absolutely. Just go to tinyurl.com/blazebook1. That'll take you to Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boots Will Travel. If you go to tinyurl.com/blazebook2, that'll take you to I Kicked Out on 2, The Educational Wrestler. Those books are available on Amazon. What the professor's done is shorten those links up. Boom, boom, boom. Show gets a little bit of kickback, and we sell a book and we get happy about it. So just check those books out for me. Do yourself a favor. Buy yourself one. Buy the wrestling friend or family member and get them one. They'll enjoy it.
Do you have any stories about working in Japan in either of those books?
Yes, I do. As a matter of fact, I do a whole chapter on Japan in Pin Me, Pay Me. Sorry. There's a big story all about Japan. All the tours I did there, I kind of condensed it down to one chapter. But yes, there's several references to Japan in Pin Me, Pay Me.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think that's going to do us for this week, right?
Yes, sir. I think so.
All right, Bobby, got anything to say on the way out the door?
Yeah, I do. See you at the matches, wrestling fans.
All right, everybody, for myself and the late Tex Johnson and Arn Anderson's favorite enhancement talent, Double B, Bobby Blaze, Bye-bye, everybody.